That's called doing it right instead of assuming.
Mm-hmm.
And we know about assume. David and I have assumed that people know things too many times. Nanners. That's all I got to say.
You're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, where HIPAA and humor collide to make learning fun. Your delightful hosts are Donna Grindle and David Sims. Relax. HIPAA help is on the way.
Welcome to episode 370 of the Help Me with HIPAA podcast. My name's David Sims of HIPAA for MSPs, and joining me is Donna G. of course.
What's up?
Today, we're going to be talking about privacy assessments.
And some other things. But yeah, privacy assessments.
Yeah. This is the one we couldn't abbreviate as much as I wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah, things get in trouble. You know, like we get in trouble.
Yeah.
You know, I still get in trouble for the human operated ransomware abbreviation.
But
I can't use that.
Yeah. Well, if you like today's episode or any other episodes in the past, feel free to leave us a review wherever you listen to this amazing podcast. But we do want to talk about the Privacy and Security Bootcamp because I can abbreviate this, the PriSec Bootcamp has been postponed temporarily because of a little bit of a mix-up. Yeah.
What had happened was, so as we mentioned last week that, we were running into some concern because when you work in healthcare, you have to ebb and flow with healthcare. And, we got the monkeypox thing and we got the surge going on and flu season coming up. And the last two flu seasons have been complicated by another COVID surge. And so we had offices that, 1 week they had like a crazy number of 30 cases, I think, of monkeypox they accounted for. And so they were considering what they needed to do. And then we had some where half their staff had COVID. And, you got half the staff staying home, moaning. You ain't getting work done.
Suck it up, Buttercup. Get to work.
So there was a lot going on. And so we simply had... Last week, we sent a request and said to the hotel on Friday, a lot of this going on. We were wondering what options we may have if this continues and we need to postpone. Because we knew we'd put things in, because, when you work in healthcare, we put things in the contract, but it's always better to go and say, okay, what up? How friendly you feeling?
Yeah.
Just to test the waters.
This is one of those times where this is what I said, and this is what you heard.
And, people make mistakes. So we woke up on, what was it, Monday or Tuesday morning with messages from all over the place because the hotel had canceled everybody's rooms. Not what we had intended.
Here's your sign.
And at this point now, we've got to call every single person because we do that where we are that level of service. So we're not just going to send out an email. Although if you experienced the email saying your room was canceled, we've tried to reach out to you. If we haven't reached you, we've left messages and so on and so forth. So what had happened was, if we're gonna have to call everybody, we might as well just go ahead and postpone.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part, it's easier to make a decision when you don't have to make it.
So you might want to quote on that one.
The easiest decisions are the ones that are made for you. So what had happened was, we are now working with all of our partners and all of the folks, and now we're trying to figure out new dates because what a mess. But, we're fine with it. Like David said, it's a sign.
Mm-hmm.
It is creating a lot of complexity, and we appreciate the patience and cooperation of all. Even our partners got emails, and they're like, I didn't know we were doing this.
Well, I didn't get an email, so I don't think I was scheduled to be there.
You're under you're booked under our roof.
Okay.
Yeah. We got a little closet space we're going to put you in.
Okay. That's
So,
cool.
Yeah.
That's better than most times.
Yeah.
I usually sleep on the balcony.
I know. That's where you go where I give you.
Yeah. Or I can always sleep in your room because you'll pass out on the couch.
It's not that it hasn't happened before. But I am aging out of that file.
You're aging out. Darn.
Keep saying, I'm going to mature. It'll happen yet.
Yeah, that's like, that reminded me over the weekend, I had a birthday get together. I shouldn't even call it a party, but turned 51. My stepson's girlfriend is sitting across the table from me, and she goes, "No, seriously, how old are you?" And I was like, 51. She goes, "No, for real. Stop messing with me. How old are you?" I'm like, "How old do you think I am?" And she's like, "I don't know. You don't act like you're 51. And I was like, "Okay, so do I act like I'm 62 or what,
Let's clarify.
Yeah, because that could be good. It could not be good. But yeah, she said, "No, I thought you were a lot younger than that because you're always goofing around." I said, No.
That's a perfect thing. Brings it back to our reviews where, our last reviewer said we are goofy, but still good.
That's right.
Thank you.
That's right. It's the two G's we want in the same sentence.
All right. So anyway, for those of you who are interested in the boot camp, we're figuring this out as we go.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what happens.
Like life, man.
That's how we roll. But, the hotel is sending very nice apology letters, and they've been, I don't blame them. Stuff happens.
Yeah,
right?
You get a free cookie when you show up.
That's right. I didn't mean for you to do that, but, you made it easier for me in the long run in a weird sort of way.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
We'll just go with that and keep moving. We kind of go with the flow, roll with the punches, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm. And
So,
I guess it is worth saying that we did have a listener who was not happy that we're not posting video.
Yeah.
On YouTube right now because I won't do the editing to get it up there. Don't have time for that. Nobody got time for that. So if anybody wants to volunteer your editing skills, you can. We can get it back up there. But yeah, I don't have the time to really do that anymore. But we do still post the audio there, and if you would like, we can send you a still photo of us, and you can make the mouth move. Like hey, that's what we do. We do the AI thing where your mouth is moving. But no, I'm sorry, just don't have time for it. But maybe at some point I will.
JG, you'll get a message from us. We have one for you. And in honor of your continued patience on the boot camp trail that you're on, you'll be happy that this episode is for you.
That's right.
Yeah. So let's move on to get our first two segments out of the way because we skipped them. We were in a hurry last week, and we got a couple of good things to share. So I think you ready to roll with the... Oh, you're downstairs, aren't you?
Yeah. I do not have my little button machine.
So you got to do it manually.
I do it manually. So we're in our HIPAA. Say what? I can't do that. So anyway, we had a question come in from a listener. Do you have that question, or are we just going to abbreviate?
I just shortened it. I don't know.
So in general, the question is, how do we use Chromebooks securely in healthcare? So let's go through that.
Yeah, that's your job.
So the cool thing about the Chromebooks is they are by default much more secure than other operating systems. They're very closed off. And in order to use them in healthcare, obviously you need to figure out what it is you're going to be doing on them, because you can store things on them. And so you would need to look at how that's going to be used and whether or not you need a business associate agreement with Google, because you may be storing stuff on Google Drive and things like that, which you can access. So look at that. And if you're doing things on a website, everything's cloud-based, and it does that very well. Now, it does not technically have antivirus and things like that in there, but the security provided within the Chromebooks is pretty solid. So we don't have to worry too much about that. So in general, in short, you can use them securely in healthcare, but you need to make sure that the account that is managing these Chromebooks is very well protected, so that somebody can't get into that account and then manage those Chromebooks for themselves.
Well, that sounds very good, David. And I remember you giving, an unnamed member of our team, because we use all of the tools, trying to be able to test all the different equipment. And one member of our team who is change resistant was assigned one. And you had to help them out to make them feel more comfortable about it, checking the operating system when it booted, and because they were looking for all of these other things to be on there. But there are plenty of tools. I mean, even VPN tools and antivirus and all of that will run in the Chrome browser and on your Chromebooks.
Yep. Yeah. And if you think about it, most malicious malware, not that you can find anti-malicious malware. Anyway, so most malware is written for operating systems like Windows and Macs and even Linux, which Chrome OS is a fork of Linux, but I won't go down that path. It's very difficult for the Chrome OS to have problems like that with security, whereas Windows is much more prevalent.
Mm-hmm.
And it forces updates. And also, and this is one thing I like about it, is that once it gets to a particular age, it usually won't allow you to update it. And it also it'll start breaking stuff, basically, which is like, no, we're not going to do this. We're not going to run this app. We're not going to go to this site, whatever, which is great, because sometimes people need to be forced to upgrade. Like these people that are still running these 10-year-old PCs that are running Windows 7 because they can.
Yeah, it's okay to use a 10-year-old one that's running Windows 10.
Yeah, well, maybe. Maybe. From a technician.
That goes back to the same individual that's not good with change kept reporting problems with their computer because it was that old. And it was running Windows 10, but it was old, and I refused to fix anything else.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason why most IT companies will charge you more money past a certain number of years, that the age of your system, or some of the times they'll even refuse to do any more work on it because it takes so long to work on it, or it's just not ideal. I mean, you're running a business. Look, you don't need to be using desktops past probably 5 years. I mean, you'll have different people tell you different things, but yeah, I think.
Yeah, we say at 3 years you start looking, and what we recommend is whoever your power users are, they get the newer stuff when it hits. They've used it for 3 years. Then you hand it down to somebody who's eventually becoming a power user or whatever, and you get the power users new.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's the way to do it.
5 years, it's got to go.
Yep. So, and that all depends too, because if your IT company's charging you another setup fee of a couple $100, you might not want to do that. You might just want to go buy another one. So, anyway, figure all that out.
And I did find the email, and we never know anymore whether we're supposed to say names or not say names, because multiple people have had issues with us saying names. So this is Misty who sent that question in. And Misty said that she just found our podcast and has been binging all the episodes. Bless her little pee. She must like sit in the corner and go, bah, bah, at the end of the day. I love your humor and the valuable information in each episode, and then proceeds to ask us, going over some of the privacy concerns that should be addressed when implementing Chromebooks. So there you have it. Misty, there's your answer. And thanks for listening. And I appreciate you if you're willing to binge it.
Yeah, no kidding. Because I can't binge on Donna.
I can't either. And when you think about, I mean, you have to. I haven't listened. I can't remember the last time I listened to I might listen to a clip, but we've been doing this 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
You have to hear us change somewhere. David's way grayer. I can tell you that much.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, I had no gray hair, none, and I'm starting to get it because of David.
Yeah. I think I had to stop listening when I was in the car one day, and I was listening to the podcast, and in the podcast, Donna asked me a question, and then in real life, I answered it. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. I can't. That's being a little too involved in your listening.
Okay, so that brings us. Yeah, I could see you having a whole conversation with me twice. Once in your, Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so there's your HIPAA site. I'm not good at it either. So the 405D tip of the week, boom. This one comes out of 405D is part of a large interrelated group of organizations, we'll call it. And there's the Health Sector Council and the Healthcare Cybersecurity Coordinate. I mean, there's a lot of different stuff, but HC3 is what we go by, and they issue alerts, and 405D is very much tied in to that whole group. We're an element of that group, and so we get the value out of promoting their stuff as well. It's important to note that HC3 came out last week, in this last couple of weeks, with an alert because there is a mal spam. So mal spam campaign currently targeting various healthcare providers. And it starts with whatever your organization is. And so it might say, help me with HIPAA, August 3rd, business review. And then it tells you have a secure message with a link that it lures the recipient to a themed Evernote site. Evernote. Haven't seen that used. Not in a while anyway. I think there was a longer time ago. But the site is an HTML download that is, here's a malicious phishing Trojan. Ouch. So the campaign may have leveraged business email compromises of healthcare, public health related, and possibly non-healthcare, public health related entities. So what they're saying here is people had their email compromised, their addresses and all of their information got downloaded, and they're using that data, they believe, to be able to customize these emails to make them more tricky so that it's easier to victimize you. So all of my data doesn't matter. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, well, your data may not matter. It may be somebody you're connected to that they're trying to get to.
Yep. That's the thing. It's not necessarily you.
Mm-hmm.
It's who you're connected to. And you never know. You never know what value you could have.
And just in case you're not aware, it's easy to spoof somebody's email address. And so I see this almost every single day, either from, within my own inbox or my filtering program or even our clients. I had one today. I had to look at the email headers on, and it looks like it came from the person in the organization. When you look at the email headers, you see it didn't, because you can, used to you had to kind of set this up on your own email program. You'd go in there and just change information. Now you can do it on websites. They have websites for this. You just go in and put the information in, put in all that, and you click send, and it does it all from the website. So it's all SaaS based.
SaaS.
Yeah, don't be sass me. Don't sass me. But for more information on this, you can go to our website, or you can also go to, it's a long URL. healthcareinfosecurity.com/feds-warn-healthcare. I'm not doing it.
Just come to our website.
Go to website and get it there and read more about it.
Healthsectorcouncil.org, and you can go there to get their threat alerts and sector notices if you would like to be able to access them yourself directly.
That's right. But now I have the big question for you, Donna.
Okay.
How do you do a privacy assessment?
Well, I just tell Krista to do.
All right. You delegate.
That's it. I delegate. Off you go. No, this is a good question because, for a lot of folks that are starting to come into this world from outside of healthcare because of privacy laws being passed everywhere. And these privacy laws, a lot of people act like it's no big deal, but in some states, you're supposed to know if stuff happened, do notifications. It's no longer just California CCPA anymore.
Mm-hmm.
California is about to get more strict and add more requirements. And you've now got Virginia, Vermont, New York, Texas. I mean, tons of states now requiring you to do these kinds of things. So it's a good thing to look at it from let's look at it, not that we have the HIPAA rule that's bringing us this way, but we have the privacy rule that brings us into this mess. So thanks for that, Julie. But anyway, the best way, as far as from what I would recommend you do, is to go use the NIST privacy framework as your starting point, because it will give you, what's the word? Framework that you need. That you need to build around. And the good news is it is also created to kind of work hand in hand with the NIST CSF, which we already know, we already encourage people to use. Given the opportunity, if you're not going to use HICCUP, go ahead and use NIST CSF, but HICCUP does cross-reference to the NIST CSF. So you can tell, at least for the most part, it does correspond, but they have the -Ps. So they cross over in the protect, detect, respond, and recover world, because you got to do that no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that the privacy parts of it, when you identify it, govern it, control it, communicate it, protect, all of those require a little different viewpoint. But the big picture of an assessment is the same. When we do an assessment, you got it's the same no matter what you're assessing. What do I have that I need to take care of? What do I have to protect?
Where it at?
Where it at? What is it? Where is it? How much? How does it move around? Who can get to it? How much do we have? What happens if we lose it? What happens if somebody steals it? What happens if we never have access to it again? You know, those kind of things. So we do that. We figure out all of the things that could go wrong. And then we identify what things that could go wrong we're going to try to prevent. Either because we're supposed to or we're choosing to. But the very same concept, assessment is assessment from that perspective. So the difference would be, what is it that you do to identify all the things that you need to protect? And then what kinds of things could go wrong? And that's where the value of the privacy framework really comes into play, is the identify function has in it all the things you're expecting, but it also gives you these outcomes to kind of trigger what it is you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as you always tell me, don't give me a blank piece of paper. You're not happy with that. You don't like a blank piece of paper. Nobody does. So give me a place to start. And this is what you can do with the privacy framework. So let's go to the identify function, which is, like we say, you got to identify. If you don't know what you have, you can't fix it, can't protect it. So you develop the organizational understanding to manage privacy risk for individuals arising from data processing. The activities in the function are foundational for effective use of the privacy framework. So it's just like everything else. Inventory the circumstances under which data is processed, understand the privacy interest of individuals directly or indirectly served or affected by an organization. And then it says, conduct a risk assessment. Enable an organization to understand the business environment in which they operate and identify and prioritize risks. And then you go into the things you're going to do to manage those risks, but we're just talking about the assessment part. So the identify function is that. And when you bring it all back around, you have the id.im-p. I don't know what you can do. Inventory and mapping. You inventory what systems, products, or services is understood, and it informs the management of privacy risk. That's what it's all about as far as the official thing. But it says systems, products, services that process data are inventoried. Does that sound remotely familiar?
Yep, it does.
But the difference here is we're not just looking at PHI.
Right.
So step 2, owners or operators, and then, for example, the organization or third parties such as service providers, partners, customers, and developers, and their roles with respect to the systems, products, services, and components, internal or external, that process data are inventoried. Basically, what does that say to you, David?
Anybody who touches it.
Yeah. Who touches it and manages it?
Mm-hmm.
Who can mess it up? The owners and the operators. So who's in charge of it, managing it, and who can get in there and do things? And then this is the thing that we have people do in our assessments. We don't do a deeper dive on all of it, but we do have them identify the different classifications of data beyond just PHI. Because it does matter. You know, so I have data that may not be PHI, but it's still confidential.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have other data, as long as it's not PHI, it's public, right? So you never know. But it takes the categories of individuals whose data are being processed, you inventory those. Well, a lot of times people will forget things like, okay, we've got customers, and then we have employees. and we have prospective employees, and we have consumers of our products. You have so many different layers of people that could be in your data records. The one that I often point out to folks that, you know, they're like, CCPA, we don't have to do HIPAA. You know, we don't have to do CCPA because we do HIPAA. Okay, fine. But make sure you closely evaluate if you have data that is not PHI, like a mailing list, marketing, that kind of stuff. If you're getting that data from somebody and possessing it, then it is your responsibility, protected under other privacy rules.
Yep.
Which would be kind of important to know if other privacy rules applied before you violate them. So you set out the categories of your data. What people are involved? Because that's when we're talking about privacy, we're talking about the individuals. And often people forget about their employee data. What if you lose access to employee data? What if you can't trust your employee data? And employee data is a huge target regardless of the type of your business. And then we look at the data actions, what can be done with that, and what are the purposes for doing those things. What data elements are within those actions? So, like when we talk about, what is it you always say, that a medical record is medical data, but it's not PHI, but not all medical data is PHI?
Yeah.
I don't remember how you...
Not all health information is protected health information.
Yes. But protected health information is health information, but not all health information is protected.
Yes.
Yeah. So keep that in mind, because you could have data elements that, you know, don't have anything to do with attaching to individuals. The privacy rules generally only worry about personally identifiable information. Can I tie this information to a person? But here in the inventory and mapping, we do the data elements, the data processing environment. I don't know how often people think of this when they're signing up for a cloud solution. Where's my data going to be stored?
Yep.
Can I store this data in the United States, please? I need to ask that question because it may not happen automatically, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Or they say, you know, by default, it goes somewhere else and you got to pay more to have it stored in the United States. I mean, there's all kind of different things that could happen there.
I love the one that we're not a multi-tenant database and we can't separate. And I mean, there's so many variables that you run into. It's important to know where the data lives when it's in the cloud and who has access to it when it's there.
Yep.
So all of that is what you do in that inventory and mapping section. You're mapping out where everything lives, who's doing things with it. That's really what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a fun task. But if you maintain it, see, that's one of the things as a developer. Like when I get to go into an office where they have developers and they'll have documentation up on, the wall where you can go, oh, I'm trying to find this data element, and you can go look at the database map or software maps and those kind of things. And they're huge. But boy, I get so excited. It makes me feel comfortable when I see.
I bet you do.
Aw, can I go look at that just for a minute? I am with my people. But once you do all of the identifying mapping, then you know what you have to deal with. But now I got to figure out, what does that mean in our business environment? what is the organization's role in this ecosystem so that we can clearly define how we're involved with this, and then what our objectives that we should do with this. Is somebody identifying that we care? And that's really what the business environment's all about, right?
Mhm.
I mean, there's it's who has privacy roles, who has responsibilities, what do the stakeholders think? Have they defined the risk management decisions and all? Who's responsible for all that? But the net, when we look at the business environment, is the business environment involved, or does it just operate itself? Many small businesses just operate themselves.
Yeah.
That direction, which is another thing we do, is we say, go identify your risk appetite, your risk management, your profile that you identify yourself as. It's like it's like a Cosmos survey. Pick the one that best describes you. But it is important to know, because I can tell you right now, if somebody says that they don't care about a lot of these, I want to do the bare minimum, well, then that's what we'll worry about advising you on.
Mhm.
You're probably spending way too much money to have me if that's all you're doing is the bare minimum. Because you can get that for way cheaper to check the box bare minimum.
Mhm.
I did have a discussion with somebody. I was like, if that's all you want, that's fine. It's just that's not who we are. I don't want you spending your money if that's all you want. Oh, no. I want to work with you. Well, then you're going to do this other stuff. That's how we roll. All right. So, but then once you've done that and you say, what environment are we in? How is the organization treating things, and where is all the data that could be identifiable? The PII. And we've categorized it at that point, and then, only then, should you actually do the risk assessment, which is the privacy risk assessment. It's about that time. Okay, so in the assessment, you take the contextual factors related to data. You're saying the demographics, the privacy perceptions, sensitivity. You're basically evaluating what you already know,
Mhm.
put it in context, and then you look for, and I like this little add-on here, data analytic inputs and outputs are identified and evaluated for bias.
Hmm.
Like, I often see, oh, nobody will care about that. We don't have to worry about that. Did anybody ask any questions about that thing that you thought we didn't have to worry about? Like that web server that you say doesn't have PHI? Has anybody gone to look at what data is really there?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a huge bias that you see, is you don't have to worry about things, or it wasn't evaluated, or it's over evaluated.
Yeah. Or it's, you have an issue and somebody says, well, that only has XYZ on it. Well, how about confirming that?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so-and-so said that's all it's ever used for.
Mm-hmm.
Again.
Yeah. Well, didn't we have a recent one on the podcast where somebody, had a server that was involved in a security incident, then they came back and, oh, by the way.
Yeah, after they discovered PHI on it, they realized they had an incident earlier where no one looked.
Yep.
That it had PHI too.
Yeah. This is why when we do assessments for people, when we're doing like the insurance forms they sent out for cyber insurance, they ask all these questions, and then the client's like, you mean to tell me it took 8 hours for you to answer this thing? I'm like, yeah, because we're not just answering questions, we're verifying everything in there. It takes a while to do.
That's called doing it right instead of assuming.
Mm-hmm.
And we know about assume. David and I have assumed that people know things too many. Nanners. That's all I got to say. Poor server at the IHOP in the wee hours. It was kind of late evening. It wasn't that bad. Anyway, nanners is a Southern term, and we were not the lady. Anyway, there's a video. Moving on. In the assessment process, you look at, and this is interesting the way they phrase this, potential problematic data actions and associated problems are identified. That one I studied for a bit. Problematic data actions, rather, not options, actions. We are at that point in the day. But the problematic data actions and associated problems. So if this action occurs, what would the problem be? Is that basically, that's a weird way to me of phrasing it, but maybe, because this is geared towards privacy people and not security people, that may mean more to them than us. Because to us, we'd say, what are the threats and vulnerabilities?
Yeah, I mean, it's the likelihood impact scale that we go through.
Well, that's the next thing. Problematic data actions, likelihoods, and impacts are used to determine and prioritize risk. So what they're saying is the potential problematic data actions, those are, the threats and vulnerabilities and what problems could occur when that happens. Yeah. But it's the same thing. It's just using different words. You're looking at all this data and saying what can go wrong that would fall outside of where we're obligated to keep it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, once you prioritize the risk responses are identified, prioritized, and implemented. So to answer Julie's question, how would I go about doing a privacy assessment? I'm looking at all privacy. Now, if we're looking at just HIPAA, you still do a lot of this. But if we're going to look at all privacy requirements, which everybody is reaching that point where they have to, then we have to identify all the data that we capture and how that data comes in and goes out and who has access to it. Because I can assure you, most organizations know that everybody doesn't have access to their accounting software or their payroll software or their human resources software.
Mm-hmm.
But do they? Have you checked?
Yeah, no kidding.
So we identify all data, not just PHI, all data, and we evaluate how it is, who can get to it, the big picture like you do with PHI. And then you look at what can go wrong and how do we feel about it. If we are only going to worry about a HIPAA privacy assessment, then what I would say is you're looking at more of the big issues that people get wrong. A numero uno, right of privacy, right of access. David and I just had a conversation about this right before we started recording. So things like right of access, the NPP, not just the policies and procedures, but can you prove you're following them? And then we do a deep dive in that, because for most parts, people will have those old templates for the privacy rules, but then they don't even know what's in them. And it's the same way. So I would then do a deeper dive into what the policies say and can we prove we're following them.
Yep.
So there you have it.
Easy peasy.
It's so easy. It's so simple. Everybody makes it so hard. Just get her done.
Yep. Well, there you go. That's how you do a privacy assessment. A lot of work done.
That's just, me talking about it. Not actually doing it all the work.
Yeah. No, she did it live right here on the show.
But we don't have the video.
Yeah. We don't do the video because privacy. Anyway.
Okay, there you go. That's the end of the day.
There you go. All right, folks. Thanks for listening. Appreciate it. Be sure to share us out on your favorite social media site and give us a rating and review. We appreciate it. Remember, for Donna and myself, that HIPAA is not about compliance. It's about patient care.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.